Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Life in Layout, and today I pulled out this Scrapbook Generation sketch as well as Bella Boulevard's Carson collection. When I saw this collection, specifically the really large icon of the drive-through burger and pizza place, I knew exactly what I wanted to document. Eli has a current obsession with McDonald's. He actually even put that he loves McDonald's Big Macs on his 8th grade first day of school board. So I knew that I had to document that love of McDonald's, specifically the Big Mac, because it's something he really enjoys and it probably won't be that way forever. So I looked through the collection and pulled out this yellow checkered print that is from the Blvd. And then I also pulled out I guess it would be considered a stripe paper, as well as the icon paper that has the burgers, pizza, and soda on it. And then also from the Blvd, the black tone-on-tone stripe. These photos are absolutely staged. I had Eli take a photo in the car with his McDonald's bag as well as his strawberry milkshake. And then when we got home, I had him hold out that Big Mac and get a close-up of that, as well as him taking a bite of the Big Mac. I did decide to ink up all of the edges in a black, and then I'm going to adhere all of the pieces down. I then remembered that I did want to matte some of the photos on a white cardstock, so I did decide to trim down this particular photo of Eli holding the Big Mac. He is standing in front of our sliding glass door, and anytime that I take a photo like this, I tend to close the curtains so that I can have a solid background. But it does tend to make the photo itself a little dark. So I thought by adding it on the white cardstock, it would lighten it up a little bit and give it some contrast against the background paper. Now, if you guys follow my channel, you know that I continue to do things like this where I am using the background paper for my white cardstock and I continuously mess up. I should have moved over the piece a little bit so that I didn't just have this kind of big hole on the side. But in one of my previous videos, you guys remember that I went too far over and had to cover up the hole. So I was worried about that. But it's okay. I think it worked out. I didn't have any issues with it. I did have to remove some of the adhesive off of the yellow paper because I wasn't thinking when I did put that down. And then I did add some washi tape to it. So I have the large yellow background placed on the layout, and then I'm going to add this tone-on-tone black stripe over to the far left to kind of close it in. And then once I laid the 3 photos down, I realized that I probably should trim them up because I do want them to fit on the yellow area. So I just cut off some of the dead space on the edges of the photo. I then realized that I definitely wanted to back these photos as well. I thought about using that same cardstock, but realized that it was going to be too much of a hassle. So I decided to use the left-hand side of the layout. I'm going to add all 3 photos down and I'm going to leave them connected. So there's going to be a little bit of a white space in between each one of the photos. So I wanted to make sure that I measured it correctly since I was leaving the edge in there. I then pulled out my layering guides and cut around the edges. So as I'm getting this all cut out, let me know in the comments below, do you guys have little ones that are obsessed with a fast food chain? Most of the time I feel like for little kids it's McDonald's, but I do feel like sometimes there are other restaurants that little kids are getting into as well. Eli will absolutely choose McDonald's anytime I ask him what he wants for dinner. If we're out running around and we're going to be picking something up, his choice is always going to be McDonald's. He even downloaded the app and said that he wanted to start getting reward points, even though he never orders from his app. He always orders from mine. Either way, right now, McDonald's is definitely his #1 pick when it comes to restaurants. So we're just going with it. I got the left-hand side of the layout down, and I did realize that I forgot to cut off one more black 1/4-inch strip. And I decided to go ahead and cut that out and then ink up the edges, and I'm going to add it over on the far left-hand side. I feel like it gives it a closed-off finish. I will say that the back of this type of layout where there's a piece of paper that spans across both pieces, It almost looks like there's another pattern paper kind of in the center of the white cardstock with all of the pattern papers mixed together. That is probably my favorite type of layout. I just love the color blocking. I did decide that I wanted to have all of the photos backed on white cardstock, so I did pull out some scraps for the additional ones since I had already gotten the pattern paper down. So I have pictures of him with his McDonald's. I also have a picture of his McDonald's Crocs. He got these last year, I think, and he only wears them very rarely because he does not want to mess them up. I did realize that I wanted to add an additional photo that I had taken before, and it was of Eli with his little Croc keychain that came in the Happy Meal. So I showed you guys a picture of that, and then I added my little white card down until I could get the photo printed, and I can continue on with my layout. I did decide to add the 3 photos that are down at the bottom on the right up on Fun Foam. I felt like it gave it a little bit of dimension. And then I also wanted to add the Croc photo up on Fun Foam as well. So once I get the Fun Foam on the back of the photos, I go ahead and add some liquid adhesive and then add the photos down to the layout. This one was a really large one, so I did put some pressure on that photo to make sure that it stayed down properly. And then I also added Fun Foam to that top photo as well. And then I pulled out the embellishment piece that is the inspiration for this layout. I knew that I wanted to use it on this specific layout, but I also wanted to make sure that I got it used up because there were a lot of people who thought, what am I going to do with this large embellishment? It is huge. I don't add a whole lot more over to that area because that icon really does take up a lot of space. So I ran by and picked up the photo from Walgreens, and now I'm going to back that one on the white cardstock as well so that I can add it to the left-hand side of the layout. Now this photo wasn't the same day, so Eli's wearing something different, but it does show like how excited he was to get that little Croc keychain. So I definitely wanted to make sure that I included it. I then added some liquid adhesive to the photo of the Crocs and added that to the left-hand side. I felt like I had a lot of yellow in this layout and there wasn't a lot of red, and I didn't want to add any additional paper. So I thought I would do a row of stitching on the outside edges of the paper. So I went ahead and used my new Tim Holtz ruler. I did pick this one up. I do enjoy this one a little bit more than the other one because it does have the grippers on the back. So it does stay in place a little bit better than the other one. I started looking through my threads and I was looking for a red that would match the building of that icon. I do pull the threads apart and use 3 of the 6 strands to stitch on my layout. Again, that is just a personal preference. I have seen people use 2 strands, 1 strand, all 6 strands. Again, personal preference. I usually start off with tying a knot and then just doing a back stitch. I forgot to show you guys the stitching, but it is just 1 single strand of stitching down either side. I then pulled out this orange paper with the stars on it, as well as my tag punch from Hobby Lobby, and made a small tag to add to the left-hand side of the layout. I tucked it behind the photos with the Crocs, and then I also pulled out the little ephemera piece that was a pair of Crocs as well. That was another reason why I wanted to make sure to include the Crocs, even though we're talking more about like his food. I knew that there was a Croc icon in here and I wanted to make sure that I tied all of it together. I added a little soda cup as well as a hamburger from the Doodle Pops. And then I thought about adding this little circle tag up to the top, but it doesn't end up making it on the layout. I do use this tab here, and I always cut my tabs apart so that I have 2 tabs, but I know some people just fold them over and use both of them. So let me know in the comments below, which do you prefer? Do you cut your tabs apart, or do you just fold them over and use the entire thing on one layout? I did struggle getting it out of my trimmer because it had adhesive on it. But I go ahead and add the tag to the top of that photo there, and I do end up covering up most of it. I added another Doodle Pop with some fries, and then I thought about adding that soda can, but I do place it over to the side for just a moment. I realized that I wanted to add this always hungry tag, and I decided to move the fries over just a little bit so that it would fit better. And then I pulled out the puffy icons and added some stars as well as a soda can. And then realized that I should probably use the soda can instead of the cup of soda so that I could use up that Doodle Pop. My title is going to be I'm Lovin' It, similar to McDonald's slogan. And I decided that I wanted to have a white title, but I wanted each one of the words to be a different font. So I pulled out these Bella Boulevard chipboard fonts. They are white with gray polka dots for the word Lovin. And then I have some really sparkly thickers that I'm going to use for the word it. And I thought about using the same sparkly letters for the word I'm, but it was way too big and it wasn't fitting right in that area. So I do decide to change that out for some different letters. I play around with the letters quite a bit trying to find a placement for them and where I want to fit. But then I do end up pulling out these other thickers that are white and it has a white mat to it. I pulled out my T-square ruler and my liquid adhesive and adhered all of those letters down. I feel like I have a ton of thickers and yet I never seem to put a dent in them. I'll use them quite a bit and I just never seem to finish up a thickers. Let me know in the comments below, guys. Are you guys having that same issue where you never seem to finish up your thickers? I don't ever get to a point where I have just letters that I can't use anymore on my thickers. It's very interesting. But I do have a lot of thickers. Back when Tuesday Morning was still open, anytime that they had thickers that I thought I would use, I was purchasing those. Especially at that price when they were like $1.99. That was like the best thicker price ever. All right, so I did decide that I wanted to add a couple of tiny little stars. So I pulled out the red, black, and yellow, as well as some white cardstock to do some Dicker stars. And I did end up purchasing a second set of the dies because I felt like having two sets would make it so much easier to run the dies through the machine. So you can see here that I have a total of 6 dies, 2 of each of the 3 sizes. And I am going to be adding a ton of tiny stars around the layout. So I did end up cutting out 5 of each of the colors, and I'm going to add 5 little clusters around the layout. Over on the far left, I do end up adding 4 of them. I basically have them in every little area over on the left-hand side. And then I do end up adding 1 additional little 3 cluster set to the title cluster. I love this little pickup tool. I got it from Scrapbook.com. On one side of it, it has wax. On the other side, it has a little pokey tool. So it makes it super easy to pick up the little stars and then put them back down once I have the adhesive on the layout. And then that is it for this video. Here is my final layout as well as some close-ups. I did my journaling offline and it says, Eli's McDonald's obsession is off the charts. This dude would chow down there daily if I let him. His ultimate love? The Big Mac with fries and an orange high C. And don't get me started on the chicken nuggets. He'd happily gobble those up too. Oh, and did I mention he rocks McDonald's Crocs? Talk about taking the fandom to a whole new level. And then I also did add the date to the orange tag. All right, if you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.